Hey, what's up guys, Sir Emanon here, and welcome to another video. So this is another match that I played from remotely locals this past weekend with Lunalight Tri-Brigade, and this is round 4 up against Flundereeze, and you can see that we were a bit late to hit the record button, so let's just get started without any further ado. So they won the die roll, they're going first, and they opened really well with map plus toucan, so they're going to get off to the races pretty effectively here. Going to go ahead and activate the map, revealing the toucan in hand, banishing the Rabina from deck. They're going to normal summon out the toucan, add back the Rabina, then normal summon out the Rabina. And now they are deciding on what they want to search between the Eaglin as well as the Barrier Statue, both of which could be good for different reasons, depending, of course, what his hand has. So this matchup is kind of weird for Lunalight Tri-Brigade. A lot of combo decks have the ability to somewhat play around map, but this deck doesn't unless you specifically have Karis. Apart from that, or if you have like goods for Serenade Dance, you're often relying on your normal summon, whether it be through, just starting with a Fractal line, or more commonly Kaleido Chick. And because of that, they're often going to be able to trigger their map on your turn, which is obviously not very good. Right there, you see that they did decide on the Eaglin, and they went ahead and normal summoned it off of the Rabina. And we're going to try an Impermanent, which is their only hand trap here in this hand. But they have the newly released Advent of Adventure, I believe it's called. The quick play that allows them to go ahead and dodge cards like Impermanent Veiler to go ahead and add Flundereeze names, or the Field Spell, and incidentally gain 500 life points, because why not? And they're going to go and add a copy of Ostrich off of that, dodge my Imperm, and they get to add the M-Pen from the Eaglin. So pretty solid here. They're going to go and now resolve all those effects. So they're going to grab the Toucan and the Eaglin back from the Banish pile. They're going to go and search off of the M-Pen a copy of, I believe, Unexplored Winds. And that sort of telegraphs that they have Dreaming Town in hand already, and so that is extra bad news for us. When we don't have ways to deal with their back row, because like M-Pen is a bit manageable, since we can summon Tiger King in defense position and then negate the M-Pen because it's a winged beast, and then do our Tri-Brigade stuff. So like M-Pen's not the biggest deal, but the map is definitely like a huge issue, as well as the Barrier Statue and Apex Avian and all those kinds of things, Dreaming Town as well. They're going to go ahead and Duality right here for a copy of Lose One Turn, which is very interesting tech. And then from here, they're going to go and activate this copy of the Unexplored Winds to put 2 back to the bottom of the deck, and then they're going to draw 2 more. So we're punishing their hand. Their hand is looking pretty broken here, and our hand is not really the most equipped to deal with this right now. But we're going to try our best. I think our opponent already knew what deck we were playing, so not really any point in trying to conceal information. And right here, of course, somebody joined the Discord trying to spectate. Yeah, this is something that I kind of routinely forget about in remote duels, that people do kind of hop in to watch games, which is totally fine. It's allowed, but it does make it so that I have to uncheck the Discord box that shows non-video participants. And that's something that I'll probably have to get better at in the future if I do want to do more remote duel content. So apologies for that. But carrying on here, we're going to go and try our best. We're going to go for the normal summon of Kit. Our hand is not fantastic as is, because Kit is not really the card you want to be normal summoning. And realistically, my play actually was to just try and crash, because I'm not an All Mirage on this list, and there are times like this where I do miss it. But of course, there is no normal summon that's not going to trigger the map. So map is going to go and summon out the Eaglin and the Rabina as well. I believe they picked up a copy of the Apex Avian. And off the Rabina, they're going to go and grab a copy of the Windbarrier Statue. And now they're deciding on which one they want to normal summon off this Rabina, whether it's the Apex or the Barrier Statue. I was hoping that they would go for the Apex, because we really can't beat the Windbarrier Statue right now. But he does eventually decide to go for it, which definitely shuts down our plays, because now the plan of crashing to get Karis in rotation to try and extend is a no-go. So we're just going to pack this one up. Not really any point in wasting time. We are pretty much unable to win that game in any circumstances. And that's Flundereeze. If you don't respect the deck, or if you don't have the answers to it game 1, I definitely can just take games very, very easily, especially in game 1 scenarios. So we're going to now move into game 2 here. So game 2, we open up pretty well here. We actually open super strong, full combo, and the ability to play through certain hand traps depending on when my opponent decides to fire them. And I believe my opponent also is asking me to read my cards, because they aren't familiar with the Lunalight archetype super in depth, which is understandable, because it's been like 2 years since Lunalight was last seeing play, or last seeing like heavy meta play. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead normal summon out the Kaleido Chick, and we can use the effect to send a copy of Yellow Martin. And I believe we already drew a copy of Perfume in hand, so we are in a pretty good spot. When you open Chick Perfume, you can play 3 hand traps pretty reliably. And you can go for like bigger, like stronger combos. And like naturally the plays that play around hand traps as well also do play around, or also do establish bigger boards if left uninterrupted, but it's nice to kind of be able to achieve, I guess, both of those objectives without deviating too much from your your normal combo strings. But yeah, when you open Perfume, you do want to go for your 4-6 typically, just because it gets you access to your Zephyros, and that's a great pitch fodder to go ahead and grab yourself a copy of Tiger and put the Zephyros in grave at the same time. Very classic Lunalight plays. So right here, I'm trying to see and test for a Ash Blossom. They actually don't use it here. They do have Ash, but they decide to hold it. So we're going to go and grab ourselves a Zephyros. This definitely wouldn't have been the time to Ash. It would have like stopped the rank 4 play at the end of it, but I mean, they saw that I had Perfume engraved, so they waited a bit. And now we're going to activate the Perfume, but we're not pitching the Zephyros, we're actually pitching a copy of Kit. And now this kind of puts my opponent in a bit of a tricky position, because do they want to stop my Lunalight plays, or do they want to stop the Tri-Brigade plays? And they eventually decide that they want to stop the Tri-Brigade plays, which is valid, because honestly, the Tri-Brigade portion of the deck is what allows you to get like, the most powerful interruption being the Revolt, helps you play around like Droplet and stuff. And also it's, its own good form of follow-up. Of course, the Lunalight engine is solid in its own right in terms of follow-up, just because Tiger by itself is very, very strong. But yeah, my opponent was kind of in a catch-22 scenario between wanting to Ash the Perfume or Ash the Kit right there. But yeah, we're going to go Scale Tiger, bring back the Martin, and go into Farid. Now we can Martin to bounce Tiger and go for more plays here. If my opponent did Ash the Perfume, my Kit would have resolved, and therefore I could have gone for like a Carriers play into Banish 4 for Omen, and could have gotten access to Tiger anyways. So I think realistically, it didn't matter a whole ton what my opponent decided to do. There's also the fact that right here with the Lunalight stuff, I can still get access to Tri stuff because, of course, of the existence of this card right here being the Tiger King. And that card is, of course, super vital in spots like this where your Tri access gets hindered, but now you can get access to it very, very easily just by searching yourself a copy of Fractal right here. And this is like a really, really solid, like standard line of play. Where like if you open up extremely well like I did, which was Chick plus Perfume plus Kit or Nerval, you can get access to all of this, and your opponent really doesn't have a good time to Ash you. So yeah, you are going to be in a very, very solid position, pretty much regardless of when they choose to Ash. So we're gonna go ahead and activate the Fractal, sending Nerval to add another copy of Fractal, and we have not used our Farid effect to special summon. And actually, I think I'm deciding between Fractal and Karis right here. And I believe I decide on the Karis because I still have the Zephyros in my hand that I want to get out of my hand. And there are times where somebody asked me earlier if, like when's the best time to add Karis versus adding Fractal, because Fractal does facilitate rank 4 plays. And I think generally it just kind of depends on if you're able to get your Zephyros into the graveyard by various means. I could have sent it easily off of this this Perfume, but I wanted to put my opponent in a like kind of an awkward spot in terms of when to Ash, because I would rather my Kit get ashed knowing that I can go for Tiger King anyways than have my Perfume get ashed. And, the Karis play would have still been available to me, but it would have required me to banish a lot more resources from my graveyard that I could have been using stuff like the Zephyrs that I would probably have to pitch for the Karis. So like that would it's those kinds of small things where like you have to think a bit farther ahead in terms of what you want your opponent to use, or when you want your opponent to use their hand traps if they have any, because like even though both instances are recoverable, one of them is still more favorable in terms of just your positioning in the game in general. So those are the kinds of things that are pretty easy to pick up on if you play the deck a lot. But I think that goes with like most decks, to be fair, like in terms of like sequencing past hand traps. Right there you see we're gonna go. We went Karis to banish 2 to summon out Bear Bloom, and then we went for the Zephyrs right here. And I'm trying to decide like what the best end board against my opponent's deck is right here. And I don't know if I'm convinced that like any rank 4 is that good. Cause like, yeah, Tornado Dragon's fine. It can stop map, but if they just don't open map, it might not be the greatest. I do believe that Appaloosa is pretty good. So we're gonna go for it right here. And I do decide that DPE is also pretty good. And right here, we're going to do a play that is pretty common in the DPE Tri-Brigade deck, which is where you make Verte to make DPE, and then you use DPE to pop your Bear Bloom, so you can get access to Revolt and bypass that restriction there, which is, of course, quite a common play in that build. And you can kind of see actually our end board is pretty similar to what that deck produces, which is Appaloosa, Revolt, DPE. But our follow-up is in a different form, of course, because not only do we have access to Revolt, but we also do have the Tiger, which threatens a lot of rank 4 plays and just a lot of general link fodder. And so, there's a lot of different end boards you can go for with this type of hand. I just figured that this would be pretty good against the Flunder board specifically. I wanted to make sure that it had DB on the board because it trades really well with cards like Map, and then Appaloosa could take care of the smaller Flundereeze monsters. Also, as a side note, I drew Dasher, which is not the greatest, but it's always nice to put it back with the Farid ship before you send for your Fusion Destiny. But yeah, DB comes back, and opponent draws for turn. And they're going to go into the battle phase, activate evenly matched, but we do have the artifact Lancia as well that we drew in our opening hand, and that is going to seal the deal because it answers not only the evenly, but also a lot of their engine. So like stops, of course, pot cards and stops, just like the general Flundereeze banishing and like map and stuff. So opponent is going to go first in the important game 3, the all-important game 3. Our opponent's going to start off with an Advent. We have Ash Blossom forward, but they have Called by the Grave, and that should be in Graveyard. But it's probably not going to come here, I don't think. So yeah, that is pretty bad news for us, because you saw right there that they actually banished a copy of Eaglin, and they're going to pick up a map, and off the map they can reveal Robina. So they had pretty much everything they could want, being, Robina, Called by the Grave, Eaglin, and the Advent. So really, really strong. They can just pretty much craft whatever they wanted to in this particular case. So, when they have the answers, there's not a whole lot you can do there. So we are going to watch as they summon Robina. They're going to go and add back their Flundereeze monsters. They're going to get a search for the Wind Barrier statue, which you saw put in work against us in game 1. They're going to go ahead and Ostrich, which I believe was the search off of the Robina, I want to say, or was it banished off the map? I think it was banished off the map. Yeah. And then they're going to summon it, banish the Advent, and then summon out Eaglin, and then they're going to Eaglin effect to go ahead and search for a bigger Flundereeze name or a bigger Winged Beast name. And they're going to pick up a copy of the M-Pen right here. And I'm pretty much relying on drawing non-engine cards out the board, because as you saw, if I'm trying to rely on my engine entirely to beat the Flundereeze setup, it's going to be a tough time. Because again, the M-Pen's not the hugest deal, since we can go into stuff like Tiger King to negate it. I'm not sure if I brought that up. I had to do multiple takes of this because the editing got messed up. But you can make Tiger King to go ahead and negate the M-Pen, just put the Tiger King in defense, and then you can play. But the map is going to be difficult to deal with for sure, as well as the Dreaming Town and stuff. So they're going to go ahead, tribute for the M-Pen. They're deciding on their search right here. And I believe they pick up a copy of the Scary Sea, which is a card that people were experimenting with a bit throughout some points last format. And my opponent mentioned that they were testing it in the side deck right here for game 2 and 3 if they know they're going first. So they're going to summon the Wind Barrier statue and pass. I think they did, however, forget to add back the Robina at some point, which will come to matter for sure, because now it makes their map a lot less powerful and their follow-up play less strong. But you see that we opened a bit of a bricker here. We opened 2 Cosmic, 2 Perfume, and our last card is another Ash. So what can you do? Sometimes you just don't open the right engine pieces, or you open very few engine pieces of that. Our opponent draws. They just go into battle phase, attack us for some damage, because the card they drew was an Unexplored Winds, so it's not going to really be helping them too much in this case. And we have to draw something immediately, or we're going to lose. And we actually pick up a copy of Tenki, which is really good. So now I do have to use these Cosmics. I spend a little bit of time just reading over my opponent's cards, most notably Scary Sea, because it's been a while since I've had that card played against me. And I have to be a bit careful here, because the Cosmic Cyclones are going to put me down pretty low, notably under the threshold for Verte. So that is something that is going to matter for sure. So we're going to go ahead, Cosmic, snipe under the back row. We hit the Scary Sea, and then we're going to go ahead and Cosmic to hit the other back row. And that is going to be a copy of a Dreaming Town as well. So yeah, they had a lot of things going for them. And so now that the coast is clear, we actually know what we have to play against, which is the Barrier Statue and also the M-Pen. And we know that they have nothing in their hand to get value off the map. Otherwise, they would have had to banish the map and then also only banish one of the back row if my opponent actually did add back the Robina. So yeah, that definitely is something that is going to matter for sure here. So we summon Collider Check, where it's going to go battle phase to clear away that Wind Barrier statue. Thankfully, we can activate the effects of normal summon monsters in attack position, so we can activate this effect of Collider Check. Otherwise, we would have just lost the game on the spot pretty much. And now we can send Yellow Martin, and we have double perfume set, as I mentioned before. And so we are going to be able to make pretty good use of that. We're going to go ahead and activate perfume to bring back the Martin, which, you know, I set the perfumes, I set everything. I probably should have only set one copy of perfume if I, like, looking back on it, just because, you know, I kind of wanted it to get, you know, destroyed or, like, tributed by Unexplored Winds or something to get that engraved, but I probably didn't want everything to go to grave, or, like, my opponent to blind snipe a Cosmic instead. So yeah, definitely should have just set one copy of perfume and left everything else in hand. So we are going to go ahead and activate the perfume effect, pitching this copy of Zephyrs that we searched all 4 Strix, as you see right there, to grab ourselves Tiger. And then we can Tiger to bring back Collider Chick. We can send another copy of Martin to the graveyard. Yeah, and right here, I am in a pretty good spot to be able to negate the M-Pen and then keep playing here. So the question then becomes, like, how do I actually clear the board now that it's main phase 2? So, like, you know, I would have liked to have gone, you know, Tiger King to negate the board, and then, like, Shirai to go banish, like, map, and then, like, attack over the M-Pen, which would have been great, but that is not an option to us, because, of course, no battle phase anymore. So now I have to kind of deal with the board and also be a little bit concerned about potential top deck. Again, the last card in my hand is an Ash Blossom, so it is pretty good against, like, certain top decks, like, you know, Extravagance and stuff for, like, Prosperity. But if my opponent draws just, like, a Flundereeze, they can normal summon, it's not going to be nearly as good because they have plenty of things to chain block. So yeah, right now I'm just trying to pretty much deal with that scenario. So yeah, I'm, like, thinking, okay, I know I want to go into Tiger King for sure, because I do definitely have to activate Tri-Brigade effects this turn, but the question is, how exactly do I want to proceed from here? And actually, drawing the Tenki was a little bit of a hindrance. Obviously got me back into the game, but if I just hard opened Collider Chick, it would have been far, far better. Or even goods to get this Ash out of my hand. Like, that would have been the worst. Because, like, now I can't activate Tenki to go for Tri-Brigade stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, I can't actually do Tri-Brigade plays, but I still want to negate this copy of the M-Pen because I do have to out it somehow. I'm thinking, man, how do I out this, you know, without being able to go into Tri-Brigade plays? And so I'm thinking, I think the only way I can really do this is if I just straight up hard make a copy of Shirai, and then I, like, Shirai go ahead and banish, which is definitely not the cleanest way to do it, but it does get the job done. So yeah, we are just going to be contemplating for a bit. I think my opponent also is reading some of the cards. And so, or I was asking them a question. I can't quite remember what happened here. But yeah, the play here is to go into Omen. Now, the thing is that I don't have anything banished. So my Omen can't actually go and search. And that was something I kind of overlooked. Was that, oh, I can, like, Omen, go ahead and, like, get away after Rescale Tiger, and I can, like, go Farid just summon. I'm like, wait, I have nothing banished right now. And so actually there was a point in which I could have stopped that. And this is something I learned in this match specifically, is that if I had used Martin to bounce Tiger and actually just linked away Martin and let the Martin get banished by its own effect, I could have actually used Omen to then search Nerval. So that's, like, the first time that Martin banishing itself would have been very beneficial. And so, like, right here I'm, like, realizing I have to, like, pivot a little bit. So yeah, we go ahead and we bring back this copy of Martin, thanks to the perfume. Also, shout out to my opponent for letting me go back a little bit there, because I was going to, like, go for a Link 2 play, and I was like, wait, I don't have anything to search off Shirai. To be fair, my opponent was also spending some time, like, going back and forth between searches earlier. It is local, so I tend to be a bit more relaxed in these environments in general. But carrying on here, we're going to go ahead and try and see what we go for, because, like, Verity's not an option for us either, because, again, we are below 2,000. We can't pay for DP. DP would be extremely good to just clean up this board. But I think the only play I really have available to me is to just go for a Tornado Dragon. And what I could do is I could, like, Tornado Dragon out the map, and then I could also Tornado Dragon to pop my own Tiger next turn. And I could, like, Tiger to bring back a monster, which triggers the Omen, which is a play that definitely could come up. So that's something that I was considering as well. But here, of course, I do need to out the map, just in case. Of course, like, any of the birds would have been, like, good for my opponent to draw, but just eliminating potential pathways for my opponent into the game and clearing the board is, like, most essential priority. But yeah, I definitely messed up there. I could have ended on something a lot better if I had just gone, like, Martin bounce and let it get banished, which is, like, such a weird thing to think about. Because I put the Zephyrus Engrave earlier, so I could have like Zephyrus Bounce and then brought back something, or I could just like expended another copy of Perfume. Like there were plenty of ways I could have made Tiger King without using the Martin that I bounced specifically. But yeah, my opponent just sets one. I pop the Unexplored Winds just to play around them, like drawing a Tribute monster. And then I go ahead. This is actually Brick. They set one and pass. And now we are in a pretty good spot because now we can Tiger to bring back, and then we can trigger the Omen off of that. And that is going to be pretty good. We banish the back row, which is a copy of Lose one turn. And then we are going to go ahead and use a Fractal that we top decked. We can go ahead and send Nerval to add another Fractal. And here it's pretty much just about cleaning up the game. And we can normal summon, and then we would just go Rugal into access code. So we banish 3, we go into the Rugal, and we can go access code to pop the copy of the Ostrich that is on the board. So yeah, that was a pretty solid game. We did not open the greatest. We managed to claw our way back in. To be fair, if my opponent actually added back the Rabina turn 1, this would have been a different game. Because I should not have been in it. Because after it passed, my opponent could have just easily gone normal summon Rabina and do all the plays, and everything would have been chain bots, and my Ash would have been dead. And that would have been kind of the end of that story. But hopefully you guys learned something new. I learned quite a bit myself playing this match, because I really haven't played the Flundereeze matchup very much at all with this deck. So I'm glad I got to kind of learn about certain things here. And also that interaction with Martin banishing itself to enable Omen. Definitely something to keep in mind, especially when you hard open the Tenki, so you can't like Tiger King to set Tenki and search that way. Is something that is pretty important to know. But that's going to be it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I will catch you in the next video. See you guys!